We are in tunnel number 2 today. I got those tarps pulled out here. If you guys remember back and go back to those videos, this is the tunnel that had all of our cherry tomatoes in it. We took the cherry tomatoes out. We took all that white landscaping fabric out of here, and we took the torch, and we came through and we flame weeded all these beds, and then we put plastic on it. That was almost 3 weeks ago. So as you can see, with the flame weeder and with the plastic, that occultation keeps these beds nice and moist. You can see the moisture in these beds. And that is having that black tarp on top of it after we watered in those beds. We put the black top on tarp, and it's been sitting almost 3 weeks in 90, 80, 90, 100 degree weather. It did its job. It made the soil nice and loose, as you can see. I mean, I'm not even trying here. So what I'm going to go through and do, since this is the first beds we built in this before we put the tomatoes in, I'm going to go through and I'm going to broad fork it, which is, my broad fork is a poor man's broad fork, which is an old potato fork that my dad gifted me because he no longer needed it. So I'm using it as a broad fork. So I will get this broad forked in, and then we will get some amendments put on it, and then we're going to turn this over to salad mix to get ready for our season. So stick around. Got a lot of work to do. This is probably the most enjoyable part of this. You can go down really deep. Man, this is some good compost. Probably the first 2 or 3 times. What you are doing is you're breaking that first 3-4 inches of topsoil. You notice I'm not uplifting it. I'm just putting it in and I'm just lifting it. What we're doing is we're getting air to the soil down below, where we can get water and nutrients and any new compost or any kind of amendments that we're putting on these beds into the soil. Plus, we are breaking up that Mother Earth soil down underneath. So if you do have clay soils and you're wondering with your compaction how you are going to break that clay up to accept new nutrients and new compost, this is exactly how you do it. Okay, so let's talk about amendments. I went ahead and got all that broad fork for say. And yes, of course, we are going to use a high quality top dressing compost that I have underneath of a tarp back there that we're going to use to amend those beds also. Some type of other amendments in there. Okay, so this is going to be leafy greens. So your leafy greens are going to be like a head lettuce, kale, spinach, anything like that that you eat the leaves of. So you want those to be bright green. You want those to be big leaves because you sell those things by the pound. So what I like to use is I like to use blood meal. Now, this is an all organic, OMRI certified blood meal. I just get that at the big box store. It's pretty pricey. This 3-pound bag is $7. So according to the instructions in the back, it says this 3-pound bag covers 104 square feet. That is roughly 300 square feet if you want to per se. And so it's going to take at least 3 bags per bed to literally cover that. Now, I'm going to wean that down to 2 bags per bed. And the reasoning behind that is because I've got multiple high tunnels to do and I only have so much with me right now. But we are also adding compost. Now, that does not say on the back of that if you're adding any type of other amendments like compost or feather meal or anything like that. It just says this 3-pound bag covers 104 square feet, which is 208 square feet. That's a 300 square foot bed. So you can see I need 3 bags. I have enough to cover it, but I really would like to use 2 bags per bed. It's easy math for me. Plus, I'm going to use that top dressing compost, so hopefully that will be enough. Usually in like this tunnel right here, I've got 10 50-foot beds. I usually run 1 bag per 50 foot. So 2 bags per 100 foot, that's my easy country math. So I'm going to go that route. But you've also got to be thinking about where you're going to possibly get these amendments. Now, this is not something that, sorry guys, my allergies are starting to work up this time of year, so now everything's starting to bother me now. But I can't get blood meal here in 50-pound bags like some of you guys, depending on what part of the country you live on. You guys have like home stores, mom and pop home hardware stores that actually carry 50-pound bags of feather meal, 50-pound bags of blood meal, 50-pound bags of alfalfa meal. We don't have that here where I'm at. I've called probably a dozen mom and pop local hardware stores and like big name box stores that deal in farm and home ag. No one can get me that. They don't even want to attempt to try to get me that. They said that they have never had anybody ask for that around here, that it would be expensive to have that shipped in since I'm the only one buying it. So the only two options for me is A, driving like 600-700 miles away to pick up a couple 50-pound bags and come back, buy it online and ship it, which actually I think a 50-pound bag of like feather meal costs like $50, but it costs $200 to ship it. Or I could just do this, which my store sells, and most everybody sells these little 3-pound bags. They're a little pricey, but I only use them at every bed flip, so I mean that's probably the cheaper alternative for me. So that may be something you guys need to look into when you do this type of gardening, like where can you possibly get these amendments. I use these amendments because I like my stuff to grow pretty fast. I like it to be dark green. That seems to be what people want. So blood meal is good for all your leafy greens. You can throw some bone meal in there. I do that every once in a while, but blood meal is probably my go-to when it comes to my leafy greens. Always amazes me the microbial life that's in the soil. The worms is amazing. You can see I'm just lightly pouring this on here like this. That's all we're doing. You got to remember, this is just we're just incorporating this into the top layer. This is just a top dress. We're not building beds. Our beds are already established. All this is doing is just getting that compost deep into those cracks that we broad forked, and then put our amendments on it, and then we'll tilt this together, or you could use a rake, and then you should have a pretty square platform to get ready to put some lettuce in. What I did was I grabbed one of my wife's brand new Tupperware bowls. Don't let her know that I stole that, but I just put the blood meal in that. So like we figured out, it took 2 bags is what I'm going to use on top of this amendment compost to put in here. So as you can see, this blood meal is a pelletized, I don't know if you guys can see that very well. It's like a pelletized blood meal. And I'm just going to lightly sprinkle a little bit on here, because remember, we got to make these 2 bags last all the way down the line. So hopefully I can sprinkle lightly and get that where I need to be. That way if I do have some left over, hopefully I don't run out of this. But if I do, we'll just grab another bag and we'll just do what we got to do. It is what it is. But so I'm going to get sprinkling. Alright, so I've got the Jang JP1 here. If you guys are following the market garden scene, you know this is the truly the only best seeder to have. Just in my opinion. Some people use the Earthway. This is a much better seeder. So if you guys are familiar with this, is you can change the gearings on this. You can actually put in different gear sets in here to change your spacing. What that does is that changes the spacing for the difference. This drive wheel here has these little nubs on it, and as this thing turns, you can see that chain moving in there. And what that does is that drops the seed out of this hopper into here. I can change how fast this drops the seed, and I can also change the distance it drops the seed. What I did is it tells you on here exactly what your front and your rear, if you guys can see that, it tells you exactly what your front and your rear toothing is. So if you put a 14 and a 9 in the rear there, it'll tell you if you run like a 12 hole, you'll get it every 6 inch or 5 inches, you know, that kind of like that. So what I did was I put a cheat sheet in here, what works for me. So I know that I am doing loose lettuce mix, and so I want to use an 11 and 11 on the gear, which the lucky thing is they do give you 2 11s, so that way you can get that spacing. And I want to use a XY24, and what the difference is, it will tell you on this little thing, it'll say XY24, and if you look at that, it's got little cross indentions here. Now the X24, you could use this, but see how it's got a round, how it's got the round hole versus the cross. What this round hole is for like pelleted seeds, like if you do pelleted carrot seeds, pelleted lettuce seeds, something like that. I don't use pelleted seeds on my lettuce mixes. You can see this is just raw lettuce seed. So in order to use the raw lettuce seed, I want to use that XY24. So I'm going to keep this one out because I'm going to have to change this, and I need to change the gearing to an 11 and 11. And if I do this at 11 and 11, and if I use the 24 hole, I get a plant every 1.5 inches. So that way I can kind of tighten up the bunch there. You don't have to do it that way. That's just what I want. You can make it every 2 inches. You can make it every 1.8 inches. You could do whatever you want on this. Right now I've got a 14 and a 6 in there, but you can change that to whatever you want. So we want to use an 11 and 11. So I will grab my chain here, and I'll grab my chain here. You kind of almost have to, this is one of those where you have to hold your tongue just right kind of deal almost. So we will put this one in here, and then what we'll do is we'll spin this wheel so I can get this shaft to match up, just like that. And then there's this little spring here, and all this does is keeps this chain taut. It doesn't keep any tension on it. It just keeps, you can see there, it just rides on that. All that does is keep the tension on it. So now we know this is good. This is just what I run it at. I like to have my Wildfire and like your All-Star and stuff. I like to tighten that up a little bit. I like to make it nice and thick, so I get a lot of product. And then we want to change. Looks like I was doing carrots with this one because I have the carrot plate in here, or the carrot roller in here. And so everything just comes off very simple. That's the good thing about the Jang. Everything is just simple. I mean, I know people that have 2 or 3 of these, and they have one mark for carrots, one mark for lettuce mix, one mark for radish, and then they just grab the hopper. But I don't have that. Oh, here it is. I don't have that, so I just do this myself, and I just swap it out. Since I am a one-man show, it's pretty easy to keep track of what's in here. And I really only do 2 items with this. I will either do like a loose leaf lettuce, which requires this one, or I will use that other one, and I do my carrots, my spinach, all that stuff is done with the same one I just took out. So I'm just gonna get this tightened up. I'm gonna make sure this spins nice and freely. There is a brush right here that goes and brushes. Now you really can't see, but there's a brush in there. You want to make sure that brush is just barely touching. It's kind of one of those things, once you set it, you can set it and forget it kind of deal. So, my allergies are killing me today. I can tell the seasons are changing, so we don't have to fill this thing all the way up, because honestly what I just put in there is way more than what I need. But and then what you want to do is you want to turn this. See how the seeds are dropping out the bottom? So I know everything's not binding up and everything's running correctly, and it's got the correct plate in here to run. Just got to put it together. I know this is kind of quick. I do have other videos showing how we exactly do this. This is just kind of a quick thing. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this jang, and we're going to get this thing sewn in. Really quick. It's a little harder to do this with the drip tape in place. Usually I do it without drip tape. This will be the first time I've ever ran this on drip tape. Usually I just overhead water it, but I decided I've seen people do this on drip tape in the past, so I thought maybe I was going to try this. So what we'll do is we'll do 2, 4, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, so we've got the jang now set up to do spinach. If you guys notice, compared to that loose leaf lettuce that I did earlier, can you kind of see the spinach seeds are more round in there? Yeah, so you've got to use a different roller. So instead of using the crosshatch one, we now use the round one that's made for pelleted seeds. Those aren't pelleted, but it's about the same size, so they'll go in pretty easy. So now we're just going to grab the jang, and I've got the 2 outside beds sowed in 6 rows of wildfire, and then we are going to put 6 rows of spinach in the center bed here. So I'm just going to do 1 row on the outside, and then we're going to do 2 and a 2. So like I said, the easy thing about this jang is you could run it, and I'm just looking, I'm looking down to make sure you can see down in here. I'm looking down to make sure it's dropping the seed, which it is dropping the seed. So I'm going to go ahead. That's the good thing about this jang. You could look down, I could actually see the seed drop down this chute and get covered up by this shoe right here, and then this wheel smashes it down. So I'm looking to make sure that seed's dropping down, so that way I know that we're getting good contact with it, and we are. So we're just going to work our way down. So looks like we're finishing up the last couple feet here. If you guys, once again, you guys know the deal. If you guys have any comments, leave comments down below. Subscribe to the channel if you are not a subscriber. Hopefully you guys are. Anyway, guys, I got to get this watered in here, and then I got to get cleaned up because we got to go to dinner. So once again, follow us at Summer Pick Farms on Facebook and on Instagram, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.